Today on the Topping Show, leftists rage about Elon Musk and how Trump appointed him to be head of DOGE while praising Dr. Fauci to be appointed as well. Tim Walz says that Canadians share our value and he's very upset over Trump's tariffs. Minnesota police will not prosecute a Tesla vandal and goes as far as calling the person a victim. GM EV sales jump as Tesla's dip. Hershey's to buy LesserEvil for $750 million. And Honda recalls some of their off-road heating units because they might burst into flames. All of that and much more on The Topping Show. Thank you everyone for taking the time to tune in today. Today's episode of The Topping Show is proudly sponsored by Topping Technologies. Topping Technologies is an IT value-added reseller and services company with a special proficiency IT security. Heck, I see the founder at least twice a day. Gotta say he's quite handsome and brilliant. Tease me, see, that's the joke. If you're an IT leader or a business owner, reach out to the team at sales@toppingtechnologies.com. Also, still giving away a free flamethrower with every IT purchase with a fun Picatinny rail adapter so you can mount it to any standard AR-15 like all awesome accessories can be. Go to toppingtechnologies.com and click the flamethrower button to learn more and see me shoot a flamethrower, or click the URL in the video description below. Lastly, trying to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so if you can click that button and tell your friends, I would greatly appreciate it. Now going over to the business part of the podcast, you have General Motors EV sales jumping while Teslas are dipping and not looking great. Now this comes to us specifically thanks to Motor1.com, specifically Anthony Alnaz, who's a writer over there. He says, quote, 2025 EV sales so far, GM wins, Tesla loses. Though I would argue consumers lose when they buy GM just because of the rudimentary quality, but that's just me. And yes, I've had family who worked at GM on the assembly lines and management. Let's just say I drive a Honda and I expect to get 250,000 miles. I don't see that much GM products, but I partially digress. He says, quote, it's a mixed bag. Some automakers saw increases while sales fell for others. Ugh. You can see two images of EVs made by GM, which I don't say they're unappealing, but my eyes hurt. They're pretty bad. Though I do love the Cadillac CT5V Blackwing and CT4V Blackwing, both optional, having a manual transmission and a twin turbo V6 and a good old V8. But in pure GM fashion, they made a great product, and of course, they're saying, probably won't make it anymore. We'll make that an EV. I'm not sure what kind of water or how inebriated Mary Barra is, the CEO of General Motors. Perhaps being a Michiganite, she's drinking Flint water. Not recommended for your health. But I partially digress. Diving into the article, Anthony says, quote, first quarter sales results are rolling in, and things are looking good for most automakers. Toyota said sales are starting strong. Mazda and Subaru had record months, and Kia had the best quarter ever. But when digging into the data, results for EVs are much more mixed. Tesla's quarterly sales plunged 13%, down to 336,681 deliveries for the first 3 months of 2025. Rivian reported delivering 8,640 vehicles, down 36%. But General Motors, this blows my mind. And again, not financial advice. Hindsight is always 2020 when it comes to investing, but geez Louise, GM stock, well, I thought it would always be like $20 per share. It actually did go up in my lifetime. They reported a 94% increase in EV sales for the same period, selling 31,887 EVs, which is insane. Now, they do delineate only the Cadillac Lyriq saw its sales fell for GM, down 25.9%. However, Cadillac lost the Optic and Cadillac IQ EV, which buying an EV Cadillac SUV, I don't know who the market is, so apparently they think there is one. Which more than made up for the Lyriq's lost quarter and increased Cadillac EV sales overall. They say that every other GM EV, including the GMC Hummer, saw sales increase. Who is buying those monstrosities? Those things, you talk about Mercedes depreciation like a rock. You got nothing on the Hummer EV depreciating like trash. Though the original Hummer by, American General, those are now worth like $150,000 plus. Some people have had some lucky appreciation in their lives, like showing appreciation for this channel by clicking the subscribe button. That was as forced and awkward as my average conversation with a human. But nevertheless, if you click that button, I greatly appreciate you subscribing. Now, they know that, quote, I still can't believe, sales for the Hummer EV are up 108.6%, moving 3,479 units in Q1. The Chevrolet Equinox EV, so boring, I won't even show you the picture. Yeah, that is GM's best-selling EV with 10,329 units sold. That's also been on sale for less than a year, which, yeah, that's I don't want to say it's artificial, but it's also heavily subsidized by the lease program too. I think they count those as sales at GM, which, again, from a perspective of someone who wanted to lease a vehicle or someone who would want to do that, I mean, there are reports of people leasing the GM EV, was it Chevrolet? Ugh, I saw a board I could barely say the name of the rudimentary vehicle, the Equinox. I mean, there's some reports of people leasing it for $100 a month, which if you're leasing it, you don't have to worry about the massive depreciation of the battery or long-term reliability or lack thereof, and you believe in the idea of leasing a car, $100 a month, that's pretty compelling. I can't think GM is losing money in those instances. You could argue, get some better discounts when you're buying parts in bulk and, amortize the cost over time and number of units. It'll help them with those types of things. But yeah, I'm pretty sure GM sales are shooting through the roof. Then again, it's, percentages wise, the number of units are really not even a tenth compared to Tesla. But yeah, we'll see. I still can't believe GM is doing that well in terms of the percentages. But yeah, the numbers still pretty low and still a small part of GM's entire portfolio. But again, I'm pretty surprised GM is actually starting to make more and more EVs. The profitability and long-term reliability probably not in the equation. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting business news: you have Hershey's to buy LesserEvil for $750 million, which is quite a pretty penny to say the least. Now, this is brought to us thanks to fooddrive.com, specifically Christopher Dowinger, who's a writer over there, saying, quote, Hershey's to buy healthier snacks maker LesserEvil. The purchase of the popcorn, puffs, and curls maker adds a fast-growing brand to his portfolio while bringing the Pennsylvania company into new categories and eating occasions. That, I would say none of them healthy, but yes, things you can shove into your gullet. Yes, that is in fact true. Now here you can see the, interesting marketing. Got a guy in a rabbit suit on the, what is a guy, I guess it's an Easter promo. At least I'll give him credit. It is a unique package that they put the product in. It does look different than the cliche, Frito-Lay bag of salt that you see at the regular grocery store. Now, I still can't believe the purchase price. $750 million is insane. Now, they note that, some of the differentiators for this product is that many of these products are made with coconut oil or avocado oil. And they think it's going to be great long-term for the company. Hershey's is known for, Hershey's Kisses, Reese's, Twizzlers, basically everything with a copious amounts of sugar injected into it. Mostly high fructose corn syrup from the Midwest. Now, they say how they've been trying to acquire all these different companies throughout the years. I didn't realize they actually bought Skinny Pop for $1.6 billion in 2017. The largest deals in company's history, which I think I've had that once. It's okay. It's definitely not healthy. Skinny Pop, ironically named. I don't see a lot of skinny people putting in their grocery cart. But yeah, $1.7 billion for that popcorn company. It also acquired Pirate Booty, which I thought Trader Joe's owned that when I was a kid way back in the day. Apparently not. They bought Pirate Booty cheese puffs a year later for $1.2 billion. Jeez Louise. As well as Dot's Home Salad Pretzels to Midwest Co-Manufacturer Pretzels, Inc. So, looks like, in terms of, I'll give them credit, in terms of diversifying your portfolio, Hershey's has come a long way from the cliche candy bar they started with iconically, way back in the day. And we're seeing more and more of these type of food acquisitions. PepsiCo just paid over $1 billion for that little, was it poppy? Not poppy seeds. It's not from Afghanistan. The little, debatably healthy soda drink, but I believe it's poppy soda or something like that. They claim it has organic and good for your gut health, yada, yada, yada. That's over $1 billion as well. So yeah, these companies, they appear to be trying to lean into more healthier options or debatably healthier options. It'll be interesting to see if they ever make their money back or what kind of long-term ROI there is for Hershey's for, again, paying about $750 million. And again, anecdotally, for something I never even heard of. Now, granted, I'm a pretty simple shopper. Just go to the Walmart and get their basic staples for the groceries. But let me know, have you ever heard of this healthy snack maker LesserEvil before? I haven't, but let me know in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the Cultural Pod podcast, you have a leftist screaming that Elon Musk needs to be gone with because Trump appointed him, while at the same time praising Fauci, who was, spoiler alert, also appointed. Now, and at one point, the highest paid federal employee, which is so mentally vacuous and ridiculous. Now, spoiler alert, actually, no, it's not. You know exactly what she looks like. Now, this is brought to you, I should do a visual disclaimer. This is going to be viscerally disgusting. So many would argue more viscerally disgusting than just looking at the screen and seeing my ugly mug. But you're going to see a cliche old gal, white, leftist, mentally vacuous. And of course, with the Ukrainian flag. I have still yet to hear a compelling reason why we should be spending, was it $180 billion plus on a country most Americans cannot point to on a map, not even the top 10 trading partner, and no strategic value to the U.S. But nevertheless, people put that flag on their front lawn. Same people that never have American flag in many cases. But yeah, she's is it the average NPR person or NPC? I can't but think the two are the same, but I partially digress. Now go ahead and dive on in. This is brought to us thanks to End Wokeness, and he says, quote, or actually no, he just quotes her. So without too much further ado, we will hear her hilarious contradiction, and it's about 12 seconds long, so we might feel like an eternity because she's so unbearably mentally vacuous, but we will dive on in.
No, he needs to get out.
Fix the volume here.
No, he needs to get out of our government. We didn't elect him. He needs to go. And
what do you think of Dr. Fauci?
I love Dr. Fauci.
Do you think we elected him?
He was appointed by our president, so no.
I feel like it's almost the career enthusiasm you should be doing. It is kind of funny or interesting that of all the things critiqued of him, most people don't like him because he killed the beagles in that experiment and signed off on that, which many would say is cruel and unusual to the beagles in the way that I won't get too graphic, in which they were experimented upon. But yeah, in terms of what he's done for humanity, I don't think that's the worst thing, though I partially digress because the video get removed on the YouTube, which is why you should always watch on therumble.com. Hashtag the Topping Show. You can find me there. Now, this went viral moderately, got 800,000 views and 24,000 likes. One of the first comments comes from the OG-based electrician, who, good for marketing, you know exactly what he is, and he is in fact based. He says, quote, she hates Elon Musk because the TV told her to. Now guess why she loves Fauci. There's a screenshot of her looking lost, getting 1.7 thousand likes, which, yeah, it's funny how they can never expand upon their points. Elon Musk simply tagged hashtag #FindRetards, which is a very famous profile on X, getting 13,000 likes. Retard Finder also responded saying, quote, I know it's my job, but I'm sick of these retards. They're so effing retarded it hurts. Getting 9.4 thousand likes. Planet of Memes, finally, I think it's a couple weeks overdue, but Planet of Memes, or memes, did finally respond in meme form. He says accurate. There's a picture of Elon Musk. He says, Democrats, no one voted for Elon. Also, Democrats praising Kamala Harris, who was installed, not voted for, getting 486 likes. I'm surprised they don't have a pill for dyslexia yet. Probably have that, but nevertheless, ADHD aside. Gunther Eagleman says, quote, they are really this stupid, getting 1.8 thousand likes. Hodge Jordan says, hey, hashtag retards, where are you, brah? Getting 4,000 likes. Now it's the famous, another iconic movie I've never actually seen starring this one starring Christian Bale. One where he's the evil serial killer. Is it American Psycho? I think it is. And it's anti-woke meme saying interesting. And he goes, no one elected Elon. He goes, interesting. Not Fauci. Getting 329 likes. We also have Jay saying, these people are really stupid. Their opinions are relevant because they don't live in reality or truth. Getting 228 likes. Mr. Pitbull says this, and his AI picture of Elon, JD Vance, and Trump flipping off the camera says, no one elected Fauci, Hunter Biden, George Soros, Bill Gates. No one elected Kamala Harris, Democrat candidate for president. Getting 447 likes. Yep. A lot of people pointing out the horrors of Fauci and George Soros in this. And yeah. A lot of people pointing out how mentally vacuous AOC is, as well as Representative Jasmine Crockett. But yep, the ultimate NPC instance. And I don't think anyone's surprised by this, but it did go pretty viral. But let me know your thoughts, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the political part podcast, you have Tim Walz saying Canadians share our values. And he's very upset that Trump is daring push back and applying tariffs to the Canadians. I say it and pronounce it that way, not because I don't know how to, but as a slight disrespect towards the rudimentary country, which is basically becoming a third world hellhole. I say that because what shared values do we have? Some Americans love maple syrup, but we have Vermont for that. We're okay in that regard. Some Americans like hockey. But those are more hobbies, not values. The values of CaNaDa, they don't have the First Amendment. They don't have the Second Amendment. You really don't have any rights in that shitty country. I say, not to be too bombastic with that vernacular, but CaNaDa, you don't have the right to defend yourself. They disarm their citizens, which is what third world countries do. That's what dictators do. That's what every evil politician in history since the dawn of time has done, disarming their law-abiding citizens. Justin Trudeau, who definitely is not the bastard child of Fidel Castro, even though his mom was it's a nice way of saying this, a whore. He went to Cuba multiple times and met with the Castros. He literally said, you have no right to defend yourself with a gun. And then they confiscated guns. Yeah. A wise man once said, God made man, but Samuel L. Colt made man equal. Because guess what a great equalizer is? Well, a petite woman could easily defend herself against Arnold Schwarzenegger or some bodybuilder if she has a good old gun. Not to be too much of a, I'd say 9mm is the best, but that's a debate for another time, perhaps, in terms of the preference of caliber. I would argue it's your God-given right and your inherent right to defend yourself and your family by any means necessary. You also have no freedom of speech. Canadians will lock you up and say something you don't like. So when he says we have shared values, do we? I guess Tim Walz does, because he's a piece of crap where during the pandemic lockdowns, he actually had police go by and shoot people with paintball guns if they're standing on their own porch. He also bails out bad guys during the George Floyd Summer Love riots, loves red flag laws, wants people to be disarmed. Yeah, Tim Walz. So maybe he does have a lot in common with Canadian, specifically Canadian leaders. There are some good Canadians. I follow a few of them on the X, and I feel bad because, again, there's some freedom-loving folks over there. Maybe we adopt them as a 51st state, but I partially digress. Let's hear what Tim Walz has to say, or maybe people call him Tampon Tim, the guy who's part of a conquered state, which is mostly, now Somalian immigrants these days. Now, this is Tim Walz. He did one good thing in his life. He did suit up. So I'll give him some credit. He did suit up for this interview occasion on MSNBC, but perhaps I should like him because he is one of the few people who make me sound like a scholar and a genius in terms of my speaking ineptitudes in regard to the comparison, which is saying something because I usually speak faster than Ben Shapiro and more awkwardly than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs. Although I haven't made too many mistakes thus far. Knock on wood. Maybe I'll make it through the rest of the show without stuttering or anything like that, or speaking too fast. No promises. But without too much further ado, here's a Tim Walz on MSNBC, which it's funny. Even the screenshot looks he looks pathetic. And he has his pathetic conquered state flag on his lapel. Because again, they used to have a beautifully designed flag. Or as Trump would say, they used to have a beautiful historic design flag that Somalia invaded in, because that's one of the biggest immigrants that's going to the country, or rather that state right now. And yeah, they redesigned their beautiful historic Minnesota flag. And now it looks like akin to something a kid would draw with crayon. And it looks just like the rudimentary flag of Somalia, because they're a conquered weak state. But I partially digress. Let's hear what Tampon Tim has to say, who thinks tampon machines should be in boys' washrooms because he's insane.
It's an outrageous affront to folks who share our values on democracy, and for him to mock them and to say this about Canada, that they're nasty people. I don't. The thing I think that starts to have to set in, and I would argue that what happened in Wisconsin is that there's buyer's remorse on this, and nobody signed up for this. Nobody signed up to insult the Canadians.
I mean, no one signed up to insult Canadians. It's a nice bonus, though. And again, he's talking about the Canadian politicians. Trump's actually very unique in the fact that he doesn't attack the individual people. That's usually what Democrats do. But yeah, in terms of the trade war, well, General Motors just recently announced, okay, we're going to ramp up production of our trucks in Indiana, as opposed to importing them from Mexico and Canada. That seems like a good thing, but of course, Democrats will never say that. Now, this didn't go as far as I thought. Maybe because the ineptitudes of Tim Walz are so vast in quantity, no one's surprised anymore. But nevertheless, it got right under 600,000 views and 3.2 thousand likes. And it's kind of funny, even when I pause the screen there, he looks awkward as hell, which granted with screenshots and pausing videos, anyone could look awkward, I would argue. Some people have a disproportionate amount of the videos in which they do look awkward and ridiculous. Tim Walz is up there. Granted, so am I too, if I'm being honest myself. Now, scrolling down the comments, one of the first ones is Anti-Woke Memes, who says, quote, making fun of CaNaDa and Tim Walz is just too easy. It says, I cannot unsee this comparison of Tim Walz and post-transition Mrs. Garrison. Or Mr. Garrison. And yeah, they have a couple images there, the same exact hand gestures. I almost thought they were exactly the same picture. However, Mr. Garrison is wearing a green, what do we call it, sleeveless? Is that just a sleeveless jacket? It looks like a gal's t-shirt. It's a button-up t-shirt, but they take off the sleeves. I'm not a fashion aficionado, obviously. I just know you buy one good suit once, make it last forever, which is what I've done with this suit. Now, that got 501 likes. CaNaDa memes, where's your mame? They simply says, everyone makes fun of Canadians, getting 202 likes, which, yeah, we do. And again, there's some good Canadians out there. Who? Well, I follow them on the X. I mean, they gave us great things like Justin Bieber. Oh, wait. Now, you also have Cool Christian Engineer says, you insult yourself And there's a picture of Tim Walz when he got arrested getting 35 likes, which, I'm actually not going to, I mean, shoot, was that 20 plus years ago? I think it was for DUI, which is obviously mentally vacuous, but a couple of decades ago, I don't believe anyone got hurt in that instance. Obviously, still broke the law, paid the time. Personally, I'm not going to drag him too much through the mud for that ineptitude. He has a lot of other things to make fun of him for and critique him for that are modern. Paul Zupa says, quote, please keep parading this knucklehead around. Democrats will never win a presidential election again. Get 169 likes. Well, especially if you actually have to show voter ID. That would be another thing. Jay says, Tim Walz's very existence is an insult to America, getting 8 likes. Cash Lauren says, Democrats are completely delusional, getting 9 likes. Liberty Pill Memes, again, they responded in MMA form. What's going on, Planet Memes? But they say STFU, and you have a picture of Obama says, I need a dumber VP than me. You have Biden says, I need a dumber VP than me. You have Kamala Harris that goes, Tim Walz is at the bottom, which, yep, it got 670 likes, and oddly reminiscent of when corporate America, when they do that, when people are worried of being outshined, and they hire less and less qualified people, and the company eventually fails. You have, let's see, trying to keep these moderately family friendly. A couple of memes of Tim Walz with his equestrian preferences, but nevertheless, Spitfire says, quote, this tool just needs to play with a bunch of tampons, getting 709 likes. Wow. Chippy says, quote, CaNaDa has been charging the United States tariffs for years. Milk, 270%, cheese, 245%, butter, 298%, chicken, 228%, sausages, 69.9%, barley seed, 57.5%, bovine meat, 26.5%, cars, 25%, HVAC, 45%, vacuums, 35%, cable boxes, 35%, TVs, 45%, steel, 25%, aluminum, 45%, copper, 48%. Getting 111 likes, make 112, which, yeah, everyone's freaking out about the tariffs. So little people, or so few people, well, maybe midgets too, I don't know. But so many people don't realize other countries have been taking advantage of us for decades. I would argue because of the ineptitudes and or corruption of Republicans and Democrats in DC selling us out, which, yeah, there are a lot of useless and or evil rhinos out there. Scrolling down more and more. Mega Michelle, which has A+ for marketing. That's good. That's catchy. I remember that. Says, quote, LL, the majority of us can't even care less about CaNaDa or their feelings. Getting 388 likes. Yeah. Anti-left meme says, we can make fun of whoever we want, including you, Tim. There's an AI picture of Tim Walz holding a giant tampon. It says, Semper Tamponis. Getting 64 likes. Yeah. Again, of all the candidates they could have chose in the DNC, I'm actually glad they chose Tim Walz because his qualifications are so little and is so woefully inept. It was good for libertarians and Republicans. Let's see. Walz says, no one signed up to make fun of Canadians. Me.
You think of Canada, what's the one thing that comes to mind? Gayness!
92 likes. So, yeah, I can't but think most Americans are thinking, yeah, we're fine with the tariffs. But let me know your thoughts and comments. As always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Other interesting political news, you have the Minnesota police will not prosecute the Tesla vandal, in fact, calling her a victim, which, yeah, Minnesota, I purposely, as a slight to that state, mispronounced them because they're not worthy of our respect since they let out criminals, they don't want you to be armed, and, yeah, just a woefully corrupt area. Now, this comes to us thanks to Libs of TikTok, in which she says, quote, update, Bloomington, Minnesota police chief is now calling the Tesla vandal a victim because people are saying that mean things about her online. They will not be prosecuting her. Unreal, which, yeah, that's, again, it's not surprising. It's Minnesota. There's really no law in that place, that conquered weak state. Now, this is thanks to Booker T. Hodges, who's the police chief over there. And perhaps he'll give us an eloquent, maybe he'll let us know why the law should only be applied one way in Minnesota as it has been for years. Because I can't help but think, if this was on the other foot, the shoe was on the foot, yeah, they'd prosecute the person.
Bloomington Chief Hodges here. Showed you this video last week of this person.
It's exactly what you would think, an overweight white gal. Fascinatingly enough, though, not short blue or pink hair. Though, hair that is much shorter than mine. And yeah, I'm overdue to get a haircut, but, time, schedule, working multiple jobs. I'll get to that eventually, in theory. And, yeah, she looks so angry. I believe, thanks to the Urban Dictionary, I know that is resting bitch face, or RBF. The more you know.
Last week of this person scratching his Tesla. And like SpongeBob said here,
1 day later.
Thanks to everybody's help, we were able to identify them. The suspect here is a woman in their late 20s. They turned themselves in. They were brought in with their family. They've been fully cooperative. The victim in this case just wanted their car fixed, and they just wanted the suspect to pay for that. Based on the totality of the circumstances here, and along with our core value of being compassionate, this
Depending on what side of political eye you are.
is the best outcome for everybody involved in this case. But let me be clear here. In Bloomington, you probably have never heard me utter these words. The suspect in this case may have been a victim.
Of course. Yes, because it's keying someone's car. That makes you a victim. What?
And I mean victim in terms of the
Pathetic.
rhetoric that is being spewed out here.
Oh no, they're making fun of that fat gal for destroying personal property because she's mentally ill.
By some of those in leadership.
Jeez.
We need our leaders to start leading and stop feeding this rhetoric. People
Remember when Minnesota, they let out people who, during the George Floyd Summer of Love riots and let the city burn? Yeah, that's the leaders of Minnesota and the police.
should be able to drive whatever car they want without fear of going into a store and someone scratching their car, or
Well, then make an example of this person so people realize, oh no, you don't just walk away scot-free.
people yelling at them because of the car that they that they choose to drive. It's time for all of us, just to start getting along and knock this stuff off, man. People should be able to
Only
be
when
left
it's one side of the political aisle.
alone. But rest assured, if you damage these cars or target people, we are going to arrest you. We are going to prosecute you.
Why? You just let this person off scot-free. How do you believe this asshole? Pardon the French.
To the fullest extent that we're able to. But in this case,
Oh, in this case,
I'm going to
so.
go back to, based on the totality of everything with it,
What
and our core value
what
being
scum.
compassionate, and ultimately what the victim in this case wanted, because the victim in this case is the most important.
Oh, so now you care about the victim. Who's the victim again? You just said the victim was the person who keyed the car.
This is the best outcome. The victim has already been made whole in terms of being paid, and the suspect in this case,
I wonder if, I wonder if during the George Floyd Summer of Love riots, I wonder if Kamala Harris paid for it. Right when she set up a GoFundMe or literally a site where you can donate money to bail out the criminals. Maybe they did it again here. I wouldn't be surprised.
we're going to hold those charges over their head just to ensure that they don't do anything similar to this in the near future. So with that, Bloomington, we will see you back here later on this week, where I'm going to talk about some of the property damage to vehicles that's taking place on the east side of
Yet another reason not to leave the weak, pathetic, conquered state that is Minnesota, which is so pathetic, weak, and conquered, they actually changed their flag so it looks like a rudimentary flag of Somalia. Now, going to the statistics, this got about 783,000 views and 12,000 likes. One of the first comments coming from Retard Finder says, quote, unbelievable, this retard needs to resign ASAP, getting 4.7 thousand likes. Paul Zupa says, quote, this is insane. It's not just about wasted time and money. The Bloomington, Minnesota police chief needs to be fired, getting 2,000 likes. Got their Eagleman simply says, this is pathetic, getting 392 likes. We also have Musk derangement syndrome saying, quote, shouldn't be up to the owner. The owner of the Tesla should press charges. Imagine if this were a white man instead of an overweight woman with pronouns, they'd fully prosecute and be in jail. Get 1.1 thousand likes. Probably. Sydney says, it's not unreal. Years ago, Elon gave millions to the NGO that's paying for them to do this. Contrary statement. He planned all of it to turn out this way? Why the hell did he do that? My innocence says, quote, in her late 20s. What? There's a screenshot of her looking as if she is probably in her 40s with a disproportionate amount of cats. Again, there's nothing wrong with having perhaps a cat, but once a gal starts getting 2, 3, 4, 5, that's when the crazy scale starts to kick in. You start to wonder, oh dear God, what is going on here? And not all the time, but more often than not, concerning things. That got 115 likes. Spitfire says, LOL, Minnesota is lost. Rest in peace, getting 347 likes. Corey Swift says, quote, it's a hate crime, charged her in federal court, getting 253 likes. Retired publicist says, quote, terrorism is a federal crime. U.S. Department of Justice should prosecute this slimeball. They have a screenshot of the definition of terrorism. It says the unlawful use of violence and intimidation specifically against civilians in the pursuit of political aims. Getting 74 likes, which I'll give him a like, 75, yep. Marine says, quote, so everyone now knows if you're in Bloomington, Minnesota and you commit a crime, blame it on being bullied online and police chief will not prosecute. Yep, exactly right. Getting 105, let's make it 106 likes. Scrolling down more and more. You have someone by the name of Philip Anderson says, quote, all Democrats are terrorists, all Democrats are the enemy of America, getting 142 likes, which I don't believe, but it was one of the most liked comments thus far. Masculine Base says, unreal, looks like the criminals are getting a free pass, while the law-abiding get ignored. Getting 77, make it 78 likes. Yeah, the conservative alternative say, quote, I can almost smell this guy's cologne through my screen. It's a doctored image of a cologne bottle. The cologne bottle says, retard, super retard, a NE compress pass. That might be a brand. I have no idea who that is on the bottom of the bottle, but it got 44 likes. I said David Santa Clara saying, quote, this guy can barely string a sentence together for obvious reasons. I will not elaborate, getting 82 likes, which actually, I mean, while I don't agree with his logic or that lack thereof, he spoke pretty fluently and articulately. Now, granted, that's coming from me, and I, again, speak faster than Ben Shapiro sometimes and stumble over my words, worse than Joe Biden trying to climb upstairs at times. Some bars, pretty low. Again, click that subscribe button. It might help with my, my stuttering, my speaking aptitudes. When I first started the show, no one tuned in, but more subscribers, the better I got at speaking. Low bar to begin with, but I would say statistically true. So click that button, and it would greatly help me out. Harrison Craig says, quote, this is how you get vigilante justice, getting 105 likes, which, again, this is on the YouTube. I cannot emphasize this enough. I do not agree with that. You have Scott saying unreal, so because you get your feelings hurt, you can commit a crime now. Yep, getting 37 likes. That's exactly right. So, needless to say, I suspect things will get even worse in Minnesota, which is saying something. But let me know your thoughts in the comments, because as always, be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Now, going over to the business blunder of the day, you have Honda recalling some of their off-road heaters because they might burst into flames, which is not great for what I would consider to be one of the most reliable brands, bar none. Now, this brought to us thanks to the United States Consumer Product Safety Commission, which they say, quote, Honda recalls accessory heaters for side-by-side vehicles due to fire and burn hazards, which, not great. Now, looks like a pretty uninspiring device, so I guess, it's functional. It's supposed to be a heater that you basically bolt onto your off-roader machine. Now, they note that, quote, accessory heaters for the model years 2022 to 2024 Honda Pioneer 1000, 2023 to 2024 Pioneer 700, and 2022 to 2024 Honda Talon 1000 side-by-side vehicles. Now, they note that this recalled accessory heater can overheat and catch fire, posing fire and burn hazards to the consumers, which, not ideal. Now, the remedy is going to be a repair. And unfortunately, this is quite a few units. This affected 2,340 units, which not great. They know that, quote, this recall involves accessory heaters that are compatible with the model years previously mentioned. The heaters are sold separately from the vehicles, and the affected vehicles have been fitted with the Honda accessory heater system, which has a mounted control panel on the vehicle's dash with controls for airspeed, airflow direction, and temperature. Customers can enter their VIN number at https://powersports.honda.com/recalls to see if your vehicle is compatible with the recalled heater. And you also want to check your VIN to correlate it with that. Now, a note for the remedy, consumers should immediately stop using the recalled heaters and contact the authorized Honda Powersports dealer to schedule an appointment for a free repair. And Honda is also reaching out to everyone directly. Now, unfortunately, there's been a couple incidents, though thankfully, no one's been hurt. So silver lining, could be a lot worse. Now, they say, quote, Honda has received 3 reports of the recalled accessories heaters overheating, including 2 incidents resulting in fires and vehicle damage. Now, they say these are sold at Honda Powersports dealers nationwide between January 2022 and September 2024 for between, geez Louise, just a heater, $900 and $1,040, which, shoot, at that point, $30 will get you a nice high-quality cotton sweater, but that's just me. Now, even more embarrassing, this is made in America, manufactured here, still got recalled. Recall number is 25-207. Again, recall number is 25-207. And again, for what I argue is one of the most reliable, companies on the planet, to have yet another recall. And yes, again, it's not the first recall Honda's had throughout the years around the show. But to have a recall for something that, again, is, you would probably need to have the quality assurance department, drink some extra coffee. But you would think, this thing is a heater. You probably should take a little bit extra care just to make sure it doesn't, burst into flames. Gotta say, Honda, this recall is certainly the business blunder of the day. Thank you everyone for taking time to tune in today. Again, try to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the month, so you can click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or a comment. It's a great way to give me some additional feedback, letting me know how I can make the show better and better. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.